In this movie, we'll see how to use Rails helpers to create labels for our form fields. Let's start by looking at some basic HTML for a label element. In the second line, I just have a basic text input field for subject name. We've seen this before. Notice that the ID is subject_name. In the line above, I have the text name to indicate to the user what this field is for. This is the label for the field, and so we wrap it in label tags and give it a for attribute that matches the field's ID. Why do this? Well, first, because it makes your website as accessible as possible. Whether it's a blind person visiting your site with a special browser, or a search engine spider trying to understand the page to give you a better search engine ranking, it makes your form as accessible to as many people as possible. It's also good semantic markup because it clearly indicates the role of the label and its relationship to the field, and gives us a way to style the label text using CSS. So it's a best practice, and you should try and follow it. And like a lot of best practices, Rails has a helper method that makes it easier. It's the label helper. So just like we have text field subject name, we can have label subject name. Nice and easy. And the label that it will actually use is going to be taken from the attribute name. So name will become capital N-A-M-E. That'll be the label it'll use. Now you don't have to use that attribute name. If you want to have something else, let's say you wanted to make it title, for example, well then you could specify it. You could have label, the object, the attribute, and then your alternate custom text. Like the other helpers we've seen, label can be called on an object to save you from having to pass in the object as the first argument every time. It also comes in a generic label tag version. There's another bonus benefit to using the Rails label helper. Remember how when we had an error in the last movie, and the Rails helpers helpfully put some CSS around the field that had errors? Well, it does the same thing for the label as well. So we have the ability to put CSS styles on the label to indicate to the user where the error is. Let's try it and you'll see. Let's start by going into our subjects template folder, and inside the form, for this first attribute here where I have name for the text field name, instead we're going to now use that helper. So f.label name. That's it. Let's see what that does. Let's go and start up our Rails application. And let's go to Firefox, localhost 3000. We'll go to subjects to start with, and then add new subject. Now we already have a validation on this that will keep it from submitting, and it will give me an error on the name field. If I hit create subject, notice that now name is in red. That's because I have some CSS styling around it that will turn it red. If we do view page source, we can see what's really going on. Field with errors is the div that got wrapped around the label and around the input field. So I have the same one in two different contexts, and you can style each of them however you like. Now notice the actual HTML that it put out here. It's exactly what we were looking at in the example. Label for subject name, input with the ID subject name. So it really is that easy. Let's try a couple more examples real quick. I'm just going to copy this, and instead of position, I'll paste it. This will be position, and let's do visible. Same thing here. All of these have the exact same name as the attributes, so that's no problem. I have created at though, and here I have created. Let's use this alternate one instead. So I still need to say it's going to be created at, but then I'm going to use the alternate text of just created by itself. So let's try that. Let's go back and let's just reload the page. We'll resend it. That's fine. Now these are label tags as well. And you can see created. And if we actually view source, you'll see that those are label tags. Here we go. There's the one for visible. There's the one for created. It's subject created at, but the text is actually created. That's all there is to it. Rails makes it really easy to use labels, and we get lots of benefits out of it. So on your own, I'd like you to go through the pages and the sections forms that we created earlier and add in labels for all of those as well.